I thought the worst day of my life was when my mother died. I was wrong. The worst day was when I came home to find my husband standing in our bedroom, holding a small blue velvet box, smiling like he'd just won the lottery. "I bought a gift," Mark said, not even looking at me. He was too busy admiring whatever was inside that box. My heart sank. We had $17 in our checking account. I knew because I'd checked it that morning before going to work at the diner. "Mark, where did you get the money?" He finally looked up, and that's when I saw it. That expression, pride mixed with contempt, like he'd done something brilliant, and I was too stupid to appreciate it. "I sold that old dress," he said casually, snapping the box shut. "Your mom's wedding dress, the one taking up half our closet. The pawnshop guy gave me $100 for it." Honestly, Clara, I think he felt sorry for me. It smelled like mothballs and decay. The room started spinning. What? "Oh, don't start with the drama." Mark rolled his eyes. "It was just fabric. Old, yellowing fabric that you never even wore. I did us a favor. Now we have space for my golf clubs." "That wasn't yours to sell." My voice came out as a whisper, then a scream. "That was my mother's. She gave it to me on her deathbed. And she's dead, Clara. Dead people don't need dresses." He opened the box again, showing me a gaudy bracelet with fake diamonds. "This is for Ivy. She's been helping me so much at work. I wanted to thank her properly." Ivy, his assistant, the 24-year-old who called me last month to tell me I should let Mark breathe and stop being so clingy. I didn't say another word. I grabbed my purse and ran out the door. "Where are you going?" Mark shouted after me. "Clara, you're insane. It's just a piece of cloth. You're acting crazy." But I wasn't crazy. I was desperate, because my mother's last words echoed in my head. "Keep the dress safe, Clara, no matter what. It's your safety net. There's something in the lining. Don't look unless you absolutely have to." I never looked. I respected her wishes. I kept that dress hanging in our closet, wrapped in acid-free tissue paper, in a preservation bag I'd spent 2 months saving up to buy, and Mark sold it for $100. To buy jewelry. For another woman. I ran 6 blocks to Money Fast Pawn Shop, my lungs burning, my vision blurred with tears. Please, God, let it still be there. Please. If you're enjoying this story of revenge and hidden fortune, hit that subscribe button right now. You won't believe what Clara finds inside that dress. This story is about to get wild. The bell above the pawn shop door jingled as I burst inside, gasping for air. The shop smelled like cigarettes, dust, and broken dreams. Glass cases lined the walls, filled with watches, rings, guitars, and other pieces of people's lives they'd been forced to surrender. "Can I help you?" A bored man behind the counter looked up from his phone. He had greasy hair and a stained shirt that might have been white once. "A wedding dress," I panted. "Vintage. Cream-colored with lace sleeves. A man brought it in today. Maybe an hour ago." The man's eyes lit up with recognition, then suspicion. "Yeah, I remember. Guy said it was his grandmother's. Seemed eager to get rid of it. Why?" "It's mine. My husband had no right to sell it. I need it back." He scratched his chin, studying me. "Well, that's a problem. I paid good money for that dress." "You paid him $100, I said, pulling out my wallet. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely open it. "I'll give you $200. Right now. Please." The man leaned back in his chair, a slow smile spreading across his face. He knew he had me. $300. And that's me being generous. It's already in the window display. Vintage wedding dresses sell fast around here. $300. That was my entire emergency fund. Money I'd been saving in secret for 3 years, hiding it from Mark because he would have spent it on car parts or nights out with Ivy. "Fine," I whispered. $300. 20 minutes later, I walked out of Money Fast with the dress in my arms, wrapped in cheap plastic. I'd spent every dollar I had. I couldn't even afford a cab home. I'd have to walk the 6 blocks back with my mother's dress clutched to my chest like a child. I made it 2 blocks before I had to stop. My legs gave out and I sank onto a bus stop bench, the dress in my lap. That's when the tears finally came. Not quiet tears. Ugly, gasping sobs that made people cross the street to avoid me. My mother had been gone for 8 months. 8 months. And I still reached for the phone to call her every time something good or bad happened. 8 months. And her voice in my head was still clearer than any living person's. I remembered the day she gave me the dress. 3 years ago, in that sterile hospital room that smelled like antiseptic and death. She'd been so small by then, the cancer had eaten her down to almost nothing. But her eyes had been fierce when she'd gripped my hand. "Clara, baby, I need you to listen carefully," she'd whispered, her voice raspy from the oxygen tube. "In my closet at home, there's a box. My wedding dress is inside. I want you to have it. Mom, you should rest. No, listen." She'd squeezed my hand with surprising strength. "Keep that dress safe. Don't ever sell it. Don't throw it away. Don't let anyone take it from you. It's your safety net. Do you understand?" "I don't understand. Why?" "There's something sewn into the lining," she'd said, her eyes darting to the door to make sure we were alone. "In the hem, but don't look for it unless you absolutely have to. Unless it's life or death. Promise me, Clara. Promise me you'll keep it safe." I'd promised. Of course I'd promised. What else do you do when your mother is dying? "Why can't you just tell me what it is?" I'd asked. She'd smiled. That sad smile that meant she was protecting me from something. "Because if you know, you'll worry, or you'll be tempted. And I want you to build your own life, your own success. This is just insurance. For if everything falls apart." 2 days later, she was gone. I'd brought the dress home, hung it in my closet, and never looked at it too closely. It felt wrong somehow, like opening it would be admitting that my life was falling apart. Like I'd failed. Mark had hated it from day one. "Why do you need to keep a dead woman's dress?" he'd asked, a month after the funeral. We'd just moved into our apartment, and space was tight. "It was my mother's," I'd said, as if that explained everything. "So, take a picture of it and donate it. Clara, we need the closet space." But I'd refused. Week after week, month after month, Mark had complained. The dress took up too much room. It smelled weird. It was depressing. Why was I so attached to a piece of fabric? Then Ivy entered the picture. Mark hired her 6 months ago. "Just a temp," he'd said. "You're to help with the filing during busy season." But temps don't stay for 6 months. Temps don't text your husband at 11 p.m. Temps don't show up to your home for work dinners wearing perfume that costs more than your rent. I'm not stupid. I knew what was happening. But I also knew that Mark and I had been together since high school. 8 years of history. That had to mean something, right? Ivy had come over for dinner 2 months ago. Mark insisted it was about work, that she was helping him prepare for a big presentation. I'd made lasagna, set the table nicely, tried to be the gracious wife. Ivy had walked in wearing a white dress so tight it might as well have been painted on. She'd kissed Mark on the cheek in greeting, leaving a lipstick mark he didn't wipe off. Then she'd turned to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Clara, Mark told me so much about you." "He said you're a waitress." "Yes, at Ruby's Diner downtown." "How sweet," she'd purred. "I could never do service work. I don't have the patience for people." During dinner, she'd kept touching Mark's arm, laughing too loudly at his jokes. I'd sat there, pushing lasagna around my plate, feeling invisible in my own home. After dinner, Mark had given Ivy a tour of the apartment. I'd heard them in the bedroom. "Oh my God, Mark, what is that smell?" Ivy's voice dripping with disgust. "It's Clara's mom's old wedding dress. She refuses to get rid of it. That thing? It looks like it's from the 1800s, and it stinks like mothballs. You need to put your foot down. This is your home, too." "I know. Believe me, I've tried. Try harder," Ivy had said. Then, lower, in a voice she probably thought I couldn't hear, "When we get our place, we're not having any dead people's clothes hanging around." Our place. She'd said our place. I'd said nothing. I'd cleaned up dinner, washed the dishes, and pretended I hadn't heard. That night, Mark had been more aggressive about the dress than ever. Ivy's right, Clara. That thing needs to go. It's not healthy, holding on to the past like this. It's all I have left of her. You have pictures. You have memories. You don't need a rotting dress. It's not rotting. It smells like death, Clara. Get rid of it. But I hadn't. I'd held firm. And for once, Mark had backed down. I thought I'd won. I should have known better. Mark didn't back down. He just waited for an opportunity. This morning, I'd left early for my shift at the diner. I'd kissed Mark goodbye, told him I loved him. He'd barely looked up from his phone. Yeah, love you too, he'd muttered. I should have known something was wrong. Mark was never home during the day. He always left for work before I did. But when I'd asked why he was still home, he'd said he had a late meeting, was going in at noon. A lie. He'd been waiting for me to leave so he could steal my mother's dress. Sitting on that bus stop bench, clutching the plastic-wrapped dress, I felt something hard inside the fabric. A lump in the hem, right where my mother had said. My fingers moved to the seam before my brain could stop them. There was a loose thread, probably from the rough handling at the pawn shop. I pulled it gently. The thread came away easily, too easily, like it had been waiting for years to be opened. I pulled again, and the hem split open about 3 inches. Something glittered inside. My heart stopped. I looked around the bus stop. Nobody was watching. The street was nearly empty, just a few cars passing by. I reached into the torn hem with 2 fingers and pulled out a small cloth pouch, yellowed with age. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I unwrapped the cloth slowly, carefully. Then I stopped breathing. Stones. Precious stones. 5 of them, each the size of my thumbnail. 3 were clear and caught the sunlight like captured stars. 2 were deep red, the color of blood or roses or my mother's favorite wine. Diamonds and rubies. I wasn't an expert, but I'd watched enough TV to know these weren't fake. They were too heavy, too perfect. The way they caught the light was mesmerizing, throwing rainbow sparkles across the dirty plastic of the bus stop shelter. There was something else in the pouch. A piece of paper, folded so many times it was nearly falling apart. I opened it carefully, afraid it would disintegrate in my hands. My mother's handwriting, shaky but clear. Clara, my darling girl, these belong to your grandmother. She sewed them into her own wedding dress when she fled Poland in 1943. She gave them to me on her deathbed, just as I'm giving them to you. They're not just stones. They're survival. They're freedom. They're proof that we come from strong women who knew how to protect themselves and their daughters. Use them if you need them. But I hope you never do. I hope your life is so full of love and security that these just become a family story. All my love, forever. Mom. I read the note 3 times before the words fully registered. My grandmother had been a Holocaust survivor. She'd escaped Poland with nothing but the clothes on her back and her wedding dress. And hidden inside that dress, she'd carried her entire fortune. Those stones had survived the Nazis. They'd survived emigration. They'd survived poverty and prejudice and decades of secrecy. And Mark had sold the dress for $100 to buy a bracelet for his mistress. I started laughing. Right there on that bus stop bench, holding diamonds and rubies in my lap. I laughed until tears ran down my face. People probably thought I was having a breakdown. Maybe I was. But I was also having a revelation. Mark had no idea what he'd done. He thought he'd sold worthless fabric. He thought he'd won. That he'd finally gotten rid of my hoarding and made some quick cash. He had no idea that he'd just made me rich. More than rich. According to the note, these stones had been valuable in 1943. After 80-plus years of inflation and increased rarity, they'd be worth, I didn't even want to guess, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. I wrapped the stones back in their cloth, shoved them deep in my pocket, and stood up. My legs felt weak, but my mind was crystal clear. Mark didn't need to know. Not yet. First, I needed to get these stones appraised. Then I needed to decide what to do with this information. But as I walked home, the dress in my arms and a fortune in my pocket, one thing was certain. Mark had made the biggest mistake of his life, and I was going to make sure he knew it. When I walked back into our apartment, Mark was sitting on the couch playing video games. He didn't even look up. "You're back," he said flatly, his eyes glued to the TV screen. "Did you waste money getting that rag back?" I stood in the doorway, the dress still in my arms, my hand in my pocket touching the stones like a talisman. "Yes, I got it back." "Jesus Christ, Clara." He paused his game and finally looked at me. "How much did you pay?" $300. His face went purple. "300? Are you insane? I sold it for $100. You just lost us $200 for a piece of garbage." "It's not garbage. It was my mother's." "Your mother is dead." He stood up, his controller clattering to the floor. "She doesn't care about the dress. She can't care. She's rotting in the ground." I should have screamed back. I should have told him everything, thrown the stones in his face, watched him realize what he'd done. But something stopped me. Some instinct. Some voice in my head that sounded like my mother. "Wait. Be smart. Don't show your cards yet." "You're right," I said quietly. "I'm sorry. I couldn't let it go." Mark blinked, surprised by my surrender. "Well, good. At least you admit it. But Clara, we can't afford this kind of emotional spending. We're barely making rent." "I know. I'll pick up extra shifts." He studied me for a moment, suspicious of my sudden compliance. Then he shrugged. "Fine. Just keep that thing out of my sight, okay? Put it in storage or something." "I will." He sat back down and unpaused his game. Just like that. Like he hadn't just tried to erase my last connection to my mother. Like he hadn't stolen from me and lied about it. I took the dress to our bedroom and hung it back in the closet, carefully closing the door. Then I went to the bathroom, locked the door, and took out the stones again. Under the harsh fluorescent light, they were even more beautiful. The diamonds threw fractured light across the white tile. The rubies glowed like embers. I needed to know what they were worth. But I couldn't just walk into a jewelry store. If these were as valuable as I thought, I needed to be careful. I needed a professional appraisal, something official, something that would hold up in court when Mark tried to claim them as his. I spent the next 2 hours on my phone, researching. I learned about the Gemological Institute of America, about certified appraisers, about how to protect myself from being cheated or robbed. Finally, I found a reputable appraiser in the city, a woman named Dr. Elizabeth Chen, who specialized in estate jewelry and historical pieces. Her reviews were impeccable. Better yet, she offered discreet consultations for sensitive family matters. I made an appointment for the next morning, telling Mark I had an early shift at the diner. That night, Mark slept peacefully beside me, snoring slightly. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, the stones hidden in my nightstand drawer, my mind racing with possibilities. What would I do with the money? Leave him? Divorce him? Confront him publicly? Or something better? Something that would make him understand exactly what he'd thrown away. The next morning, Dr. Chen's office was in a sleek high-rise downtown, the kind of building with a doorman and marble floors. I felt underdressed in my diner uniform, clutching my purse where I'd hidden the stones in a zippered inner pocket. Dr. Chen was in her 60s, with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun and reading glasses on a chain around her neck. Her office was small but elegant, with velvet-lined display cases and professional lighting. "Ms. Morrison?" She stood and shook my hand warmly. "Please, have a seat. You said on the phone you had some family jewelry you needed appraised." "Yes." My voice shook slightly. "They belong to my grandmother. I just found them, and I need to know. I need to know if they're real." "May I see them?" With trembling hands, I pulled out the cloth pouch and set it on her desk. She opened it carefully, her professional demeanor not changing as she poured the stones onto a white velvet pad. But I saw her eyes widen, just for a second. She picked up a jeweler's loupe and examined each stone in silence. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. Finally, she set down the loupe and looked at me. "Miss Morrison, where did you say these came from?" My grandmother. She fled Poland during World War II. My mother said she sewed them into her wedding dress. Dr. Chen nodded slowly. That would make sense. These are old European cuts, pre-1940s. The craftsmanship is exquisite. She paused. Ms. Morrison, these are real. Very real. The 3 diamonds alone. These are each between 3 and 4 carats. VS1 clarity, nearly colorless. The rubies are Burmese, also exceptional quality, probably 3 carats each. The room started to spin. How much are they worth? She pulled out a calculator and started writing, current market value, taking into account the historical significance, now to the quality, the provenance, if you can document it. She looked up at me. I would estimate between $1.8 and $2.3 million. I couldn't breathe. Million Czech she confirmed. And that's a conservative estimate. At auction, with the Holocaust survival story properly documented, you could potentially get more. There are collectors who specialize in pieces with that kind of historical weight. $2 million. Mark had sold my mother's dress for $100, and inside was $2 million. Ms. Morrison, are you all right? You look pale. I'm fine. I need a moment. She poured me a glass of water from a pitcher on her desk. This must be overwhelming. Have you thought about what you want to do with them? I don't know. I literally just found them yesterday. Well, you have options. You could sell them privately, auction them, have them set into jewelry for yourself. But first, I'd recommend you get insurance immediately. Stones of this value need to be properly protected. How long does it take to sell them, if I wanted to? That depends on the method. A private sale to a collector could happen within a few weeks if I make some calls. An auction house would take longer, several months for the major houses, but you'd likely get the best price that way. Could you help me with a private sale? Soon? She studied me carefully. Ms. Morrison, these stones are your property, correct? There's no dispute over ownership. They're mine. My grandmother gave them to my mother. My mother gave them to me. I have a note from my mother explaining their history. Good. Then yes, I can help you. But I need to ask, is there a reason for the urgency? I thought about Mark, sleeping peacefully last night while I plotted his downfall. I thought about Ivy, probably wearing her cheap bracelet right now, thinking she'd won. Let's just say I need to secure these before someone tries to claim they have a right to them. Dr. Chen's expression softened with understanding. Husband? Soon-to-be ex-husband? I see. Well, in that case, I'd advise you to document everything immediately. The note from your mother, the dress they came from, anything that proves these were yours before marriage or were a gift specifically to you. In most states, inherited property remains separate from marital assets, but you want ironclad proof. The dress was given to me 3 years ago, a year before I got married. Perfect. Do you still have the dress? Yes. Photograph it. Photograph the torn hem where you found the stones. Keep the note from your mother. I'll write up an official appraisal document today that you can use for insurance and legal purposes. She pulled out a business card and wrote a name on the back. This is my attorney. She specializes in asset protection during divorce. Call her today. I took the card, my hands still shaking. Thank you. I don't know what to say. Say you'll be careful. Men have done worse things than stealing for amounts like this. I left Dr. Chen's office 3 hours later with an official appraisal document in a sealed envelope, insurance paperwork in process, and 3 phone numbers: an attorney, a private security company, and a collector who was interested in viewing the stones next week. The collector, a man named Richard Vance, had apparently built his fortune in tech and now spent it acquiring pieces with historical significance. Dr. Chen said he'd offered $2.1 million sight unseen, pending authentication, which was already complete. $2.1 million for stones that had been hidden in my closet while Mark and I fought about rent money, while I worked double shifts at the diner for tips, while Mark bought jewelry for Ivy. I called the attorney from a coffee shop, ordering a latte I couldn't really afford but felt I deserved after the morning I'd had. The attorney, Jennifer Walsh, could see me that afternoon. I took the bus to her office, another sleek high-rise that made me feel like an imposter. But Jennifer didn't care about my diner uniform or my cheap shoes. She cared about the appraisal document and the photograph I'd taken that morning of my mother's note. "This is very clear," she said, spreading the documents on her desk. "The stones were your mother's property, given to you as an inheritance before your marriage. They are separate property under state law. Your husband has no claim to them whatsoever. Even though they were in our apartment? Even so. However, I'd recommend you don't keep them there any longer. Do you have anywhere safe?" I was thinking a safety deposit box. "Perfect. Get one today, in your name only. And Clara?" She leaned forward. "Don't tell him about the stones, not yet. File for divorce first, get all your assets separated, then you can decide if and when to inform him about their existence. What if he finds out? If he tries to claim any portion of them, we fight him, and we'll win. But let's not give him the ammunition to start a legal battle if we can avoid it. Get everything secured first." I nodded, feeling a strange sense of calm settling over me. For the first time in years, I felt like I had power. Real power. "There's one more thing," I said slowly. "I don't want to just leave quietly. I want him to know. I want him to understand what he threw away." Jennifer raised an eyebrow. "I can't advise you on that from a legal standpoint. Anything you do publicly could be used against you in divorce proceedings. What if it's just telling the truth? The truth is fine. Just don't do anything that could be construed as harassment or intentional infliction of emotional distress. And Clara," she smiled slightly, "document everything he's done. The sale of your property without permission, his relationship with this other woman, anything that shows fault. It'll help in the divorce." I spent the rest of the day setting up my new life. A safety deposit box at a bank across town, in my name only. A separate bank account Mark didn't know about. I even bought a new phone with a new number and started transferring all my important contacts and documents. When I got home that evening, Mark was getting ready to go out. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Drinks with the team, probably be late." He was wearing cologne, the expensive kind he'd bought last month, claiming it was for job interviews. "Is Ivy going?" He paused, his hand on the doorknob. "Yeah, probably. She's part of the team." "Have fun." He looked at me suspiciously. "You're not going to make a thing about this?" "No, you're right. I've been too clingy. You should go out with your coworkers." "Oh, well, good." He seemed almost disappointed that I wasn't fighting him. "Don't wait up." The door closed behind him. I waited 5 minutes to make sure he wasn't coming back, then I pulled out my new phone and called Dr. Chen. "Ms. Morrison? I want to sell them, as soon as possible. This collector, Mr. Vance, can he meet this week?" "I'll call him now." "Are you sure? This is a very fast decision." "I'm sure. I want the money secured before I file for divorce." "Smart woman. I'll call you back within the hour." She called back in 30 minutes. Mr. Vance could meet tomorrow afternoon. He'd have a certified check ready, pending one final authentication with Dr. Chen present tomorrow. By tomorrow night, I'd have $2.1 million, and Mark wouldn't know a thing. I spent that evening shopping online, not for myself, for Mark and Ivy. I bought 2 tickets to Ivy's favorite restaurant, the one she was always posting about on Instagram, the exclusive one with the 3-month waiting list. I used Mark's credit card, the one we shared for joint expenses. Then I sent the confirmation to Mark's email with a note. "Surprise? Reservation tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Enjoy your team dinner." Let him try to explain that to Ivy. Let him squirm. But that was just the appetizer. The main course was coming. The meeting with Richard Vance took place in Dr. Chen's office. He was in his 50s, distinguished, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car. He examined the stones with Dr. Chen, asked about the provenance, read my mother's note with something like reverence. "These are extraordinary," he said finally. "Not just for their quality, but for their history. Your grandmother was very brave." "Thank you." Dr. Chen authenticated them thoroughly yesterday, and I've reviewed her documentation. I'm prepared to offer $2.1 million, as discussed. Certified check, cashable immediately. My mouth went dry. That's acceptable. He pulled out a briefcase and withdrew paperwork. I'll need you to sign a certificate of authenticity and a transfer of ownership. Dr. Chen will witness. You'll also sign an agreement that you'll provide any additional documentation about the stones, history if requested, for exhibition purposes. Exhibition? I plan to eventually loan these to the Holocaust Museum. Your grandmother's story deserves to be told. Something in my chest loosened. I'd like that. She deserves to be remembered. We signed the papers. He handed me a check with more zeros than I'd ever seen in my life. Just like that, I was a millionaire. Ms. Morrison, Mr. Vance said as we shook hands, I hope you use this money to build the life your grandmother and mother wanted for you. I will, I promised. After he left, Dr. Chen poured us both a glass of wine. What will you do now? I'm going to take care of some business. And then I'm going to make sure my husband never forgets what he threw away. She raised her glass. To brave women who know how to protect themselves. To brave women, I echoed. I went straight to the bank and deposited the check. It would take 3 business days to clear, but my account already showed the pending deposit, $2.1 million. Then I went home and did something I'd wanted to do for months. I called a locksmith and had the locks changed. When Mark tried to come home later, his key wouldn't work. My new phone rang. His number, I didn't answer. He called 17 times, left 12 voicemails, each one angrier than the last. Finally, I texted him from my new number. Your things are in storage unit 247 at Public Storage on Main Street. You have 30 days to collect them. The apartment lease is in my name. Don't come back. His response came immediately. Are you insane? You can't kick me out. We're married. I texted back. You stole my property and sold it without permission. That's theft. The police report is already filed. My attorney will be in touch about the divorce. Lose my number. Then I blocked him. I should have felt guilty. I should have felt sad. But all I felt was relief. And something else. Something that felt like freedom. Mark didn't know about the stones yet. He thought I was just a scorned wife throwing a tantrum. He'd find out the truth soon enough. But not yet. First, I had plans to make big plans. Mark thought he could wait me out. He thought I'd come crawling back, apologizing for overreacting about the dress. He had no idea that while he was sleeping on Ivy's couch, begging her to let him stay, just until Clara calms down, I was systematically building a new life. A life he couldn't touch. The $2.1 million cleared on a Tuesday. I woke up that morning, checked my bank account on my phone, and stared at the number until my eyes watered. It was real. All of it was real. I didn't go to work at the diner that day. Instead, I called my manager, sweet old Ruby, who'd given me shifts when nobody else would, and I told her the truth. Well, most of it. Ruby, I need to quit. I'm sorry for the short notice. But something came up. A family inheritance. I can't explain everything, but I wanted to thank you. You gave me a job when I needed it most. Ruby's voice crackled over the phone, warm and knowing. Clara, honey, I always knew you were destined for better things than wiping down tables. You go live your life. And if that husband of yours gave you any trouble, you come back here and I'll hit him with my frying pan. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. I might take you up on that. After hanging up, I sat in my apartment, not ours anymore, and made a list. Not a grocery list or a bill list, a dream list. What did I want? First, I wanted Mark to suffer. Not physically. I wasn't cruel, but I wanted him to watch me thrive while he withered. I wanted him to understand, deeply and completely, what he'd thrown away. Second, I wanted security, real security, the kind my grandmother and mother never had. The kind that meant I'd never have to depend on anyone ever again. Third, I wanted to honor my mother's memory, to show her that her sacrifice, her secrecy, her protection of me had meant something. I started with the small things. That afternoon, I went shopping. Real shopping. Not at thrift stores or clearance racks, but at the boutiques downtown where saleswomen greeted you with champagne and genuine smiles. I bought a dress. A beautiful, elegant black dress that fit me perfectly. It cost $800. I didn't even flinch when I handed over my new credit card. Then I bought shoes. Real leather, Italian, Heels that made me feel like I could conquer the world. Another $600. Jewelry, simple, tasteful pieces, a gold bracelet, pearl earrings, a watch that actually kept time. $2,000. The saleswoman kept glancing at me nervously, probably wondering if I was going to rob the place. I was still wearing my diner uniform, my hair in a messy ponytail, my old sneakers scuffed and worn, but when my card went through without a problem, her expression changed completely. "Is there anything else I can help you find?" she asked, suddenly attentive. "Actually, yes. I need a complete wardrobe. Business casual, evening wear, everyday clothes. I'm starting a new life and I need to look the part." 2 hours later, I walked out with shopping bags covering both arms and an appointment scheduled for later that week for a personal styling session. I felt dangerous. I felt powerful. I felt free. Mark started texting me from a new number 3 days after I changed the locks. I'd blocked his original number, but apparently Ivy let him use her phone. "Clara, we need to talk. You can't just kick me out without discussing this. We're married. We have joint property." I let him stew for a few hours before responding. "We have nothing joint. The apartment lease is in my name. The car is in my name. You contributed nothing to this household except complaints and infidelity. My attorney has filed for divorce. You'll be served papers next week. You're divorcing me over a dress. I'm divorcing you for stealing from me, lying to me, and cheating on me. The dress was just the final straw. I didn't cheat. Ivy is my coworker. Mark, I found the receipts, the hotel rooms, the jewelry, the lingerie that wasn't my size. I've documented everything. My attorney says it's a very strong case for a fault divorce." There was a long pause. Then, "What do you want?" "Nothing from you. I want you out of my life completely." "Fine. But I want half of whatever savings you have. I'm entitled to it." I smiled at my phone. This was the opening I'd been waiting for. "Mark, we have $143 in our joint savings account. I checked yesterday. You can have all of it if you want. I'll have my attorney draw up papers for you to sign releasing all claims to any of my assets, and you can have the $143. Another long pause. "That's it. You're keeping everything?" "I'm keeping what's mine. You're welcome to what's yours, which is $71.50 if we split it fairly." This is insane. You're being vindictive. "No, I'm being practical. Sign the papers, Mark. Move on with Ivy. Build your life together. I'm sure she'll be very happy with you once she realizes you're broke." I blocked Ivy's number too, but I wasn't done, not even close. The next week, I did something I'd dreamed about for years. I went to a luxury car dealership. The salesman who approached me was young, cocky, probably used to kicking out dreamers who couldn't afford the cars they came to look at. He looked at my jeans and t-shirt with barely concealed disdain. "Can I help you?" he asked, his tone suggesting he'd rather be doing anything else. "Yes, I'd like to see your electric vehicles. Something practical but luxurious," he sighed. "Miss, these cars start at $80,000. Maybe you'd be more comfortable at the Honda dealership down the street." I pulled out my phone and showed him my bank statement. His eyes went wide. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean to." "It's fine. Show me the cars and bring me some water. I'll be here a while." 3 hours later, I drove off the lot in a brand new electric SUV, pearl white with cream leather interior. It was silent, smooth, and cost more than Mark made in 2 years. I drove straight to Money Fast pawn shop. The same greasy man was behind the counter. He looked up when I walked in, not recognizing me at first. I was dressed differently now. The black dress, the Italian shoes, my hair professionally styled. "Can I help you?" he asked. "Remember me? I came in a few weeks ago, frantic, desperate to buy back a wedding dress." Recognition dawned slowly. "Oh, yeah, you paid triple what I gave the guy for it." "I did, and I wanted to thank you." He looked confused. "Thank me?" "That dress saved my life. What was inside it changed everything. So thank you for not selling it before I got there. Thank you for being greedy enough to charge me $300. It was worth every penny." I handed him a $100 bill. "For your trouble." He stared at the money, then at me, then at the pearl white SUV visible through the shop window. "What? What was inside it? I smiled. Wouldn't you like to know? I left him standing there, mouth open, probably kicking himself for not inspecting the dress more carefully. Mark's behavior became increasingly erratic. He started showing up at places he knew I might be, the grocery store, the bank, the coffee shop I liked. He'd try to corner me, try to talk to me, always with the same desperate energy. Clara, please? We can work this out. I made a mistake. I'm sorry about the dress. I'll buy you a new one, a better one. Mark, there is no new one. That dress was irreplaceable, just like our marriage. Don't do this. We've been together since high school. 8 years. That has to mean something. It did mean something. It meant I wasted 8 years on someone who valued me so little he sold my mother's dress for pocket change. It was $100. How was I supposed to know it was important? I told you it was important. Every single time you complained about it. Every time you demanded I throw it away. I told you it was all I had left of her. You just didn't care. He grabbed my arm. Not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to stop me from walking away. What do you want from me? You want me to grovel? Fine. I'm groveling. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please don't divorce me. I looked at his hand on my arm, then up at his face. He looked terrible. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, wearing the same shirt he'd had on the last time I saw him. Let go of me, Mark. Not until you listen. Let go. Something in my voice made him release me. Maybe it was the coldness. Maybe it was the absolute lack of fear. You're different, he said, stepping back. What happened to you? I woke up. That's what happened. I realized I deserve better than a man who steals from me, lies to me, and cheats on me. I realized I'm worth more than being someone's backup plan while they pursue someone younger and prettier. Ivy isn't. We're not. It's not like that. I don't care what it's like, Mark. I don't care about you anymore. That's the part you're not understanding. I'm not angry. I'm not sad. I'm just done. You can't afford to be done. You're a waitress. You need me. I laughed. Actually laughed in his face. Mark, I quit the diner 3 weeks ago. I don't need anyone, least of all you. Then where are you getting money? That car, those clothes? Clara, what's going on? That's none of your business anymore. Sign the divorce papers. Move on. I walked away, leaving him standing in the parking lot, confusion written all over his face. The next phase of my plan involved something more public. Mark and Ivy worked at a mid-sized marketing firm downtown, the kind of place with an open office layout, where everyone could see everyone else's business. I happened to know, thanks to some strategic social media stalking, that their company was hosting a big client dinner next Friday. A fancy event at the Riverside restaurant, the most expensive place in the city, the same restaurant I'd been to with Mark once, for our anniversary 3 years ago. He'd complained the whole time about the prices, made me order the cheapest thing on the menu, and tipped exactly 10%. I called the Riverside and made a reservation for one, same night as the company dinner. I requested a table on the outdoor patio, where I'd have a perfect view of the main dining room. Then I went shopping again, this time for something that would turn heads. I found it in a boutique I'd never dared enter before. A deep red evening gown, floor length, with a subtle slit up one side. Elegant, sophisticated, expensive. This is a Valentino, the saleswoman breathed as I tried it on. It's one of a kind. It fit perfectly, like it had been made for me. I'll take it. It's $5,000. I'll take it. Friday night arrived. I spent 2 hours getting ready, which was about 1 hour and 55 minutes more than I'd ever spent before. Professional makeup, hair in elegant waves, the red dress, the Italian shoes, the diamond necklace I'd had made from one of the smaller stones Dr. Chen had helped me have cut from the original gems. A tasteful, beautiful piece that caught the light with every movement. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. I looked like someone important, someone confident, someone who didn't take crap from anyone. I arrived at the Riverside restaurant at 7:45. Mark's company dinner started at 8. The maitre d' led me to my table on the patio. It was perfect. slightly elevated, with a clear view into the main dining room through the floor-to-ceiling windows. I ordered champagne, the expensive kind, the kind Mark would have had a heart attack over. At 8:05, I saw them arrive, Mark and Ivy, along with about 20 other people from their company. They were seated at a long table in the center of the main dining room. Ivy was wearing a dress I recognized, the same white dress she'd worn to our apartment for dinner. Her lucky dress, she'd called it. Mark was in a suit I'd never seen before, probably borrowed from a friend, knowing him. They sat down, started looking at menus. I watched Mark's face go pale as he scanned the prices. I ordered lobster, and filet mignon, and a side of truffle fries, and another glass of champagne. My meal arrived, and I ate slowly, savoring every bite. Not because the food was amazing, though it was, but because I could see Mark craning his neck, trying to figure out who was on the patio. The lighting was strategic. People inside could see out, but the view was slightly obscured, like looking through gauze. I waited until Mark excused himself from the table, probably going to the bathroom, but he had to walk right past the patio entrance to get there. That's when I stood up, pretending to adjust my dress, moving into his direct line of sight. Our eyes met. His face went through approximately 7 different expressions in 3 seconds: confusion, recognition, shock, disbelief, anger, something that might have been grief. I smiled, raised my champagne glass slightly, like a toast. Then I sat back down and continued my meal. Mark stood frozen in the hallway for a full minute before Ivy appeared, looking for him. "Mark, are you okay? Everyone's waiting to order." She followed his gaze to where I sat. Her expression matched his. Shock, confusion, and something else. Jealousy. Because I looked good. Better than good. I looked like I belonged in this restaurant, at this level of society. And she knew it. I saw her grab Mark's arm, pulling him back toward their table. I saw her lean in, whispering urgently. I saw Mark shake his head, his hands gesturing wildly. They returned to their table, but Mark couldn't focus. He kept glancing toward the patio, toward me. I finished my lobster, my filet mignon, my truffle fries. I ordered dessert, creme brulee and a cappuccino. When my check came, I didn't even look at it. I just handed over my credit card and added a 30% tip. $347 for one meal. More than Mark had sold my mother's dress for. I made sure to walk through the main dining room on my way out. I wanted him to see the dress up close. I wanted him to see the necklace, the shoes, the absolute transformation. I walked slowly, confidently, not looking at their table, but I felt his eyes on me the entire time. My phone exploded with messages that night. From Ivy's number again. "Who the hell do you think you are?" From a number I didn't recognize. "Clara, it's Mark. I borrowed someone's phone. We need to talk. How can you afford that? What's going on?" From another unknown number. "This is Ivy. Mark is a mess. Whatever game you're playing, stop it. He made a mistake. Move on." I responded to none of them. Instead, I posted a photo on social media for the first time in months. Just the dessert plate from the riverside, empty except for a few crumbs and the restaurant's logo clearly visible. Caption: "Sometimes you have to treat yourself. Life is too short for cheap wine and cheaper men." Within an hour, it had 50 likes. Within 2 hours, 100. People I hadn't heard from in years were commenting, asking if I was okay, saying I looked amazing. 3 comments were from women I knew from high school. Women who'd been Mark's friends first, who'd taken his side when we started having problems. "Clara, you look incredible. So glad to see you thriving." "Yes, queen, living your best life. Whoever let you go is an idiot." Mark saw them. I know he did, because the texts became more desperate. "Clara, please, just tell me what's happening. Did you win the lottery? Did someone die and leave you money? I deserve to know." I finally responded, at 2 a.m., when I knew he'd still be awake obsessing over it. "You don't deserve anything from me, Mark. You made your choice when you sold my mother's dress. You decided what was valuable and what was trash. You were wrong about both. What does that even mean? It means you're going to spend the rest of your life wondering what you threw away. Sleep well." I blocked that number too. The divorce papers were served the following Monday. My attorney, Jennifer, called to confirm. He's been served. And Clara. He asked the process server if this was about money, if you were asking for alimony or property division. What did you tell him? I told him to read the papers. You're asking for nothing. No alimony, no shared assets, just a clean break. He seemed confused. Good. He also asked if you'd be willing to meet with him and his attorney to discuss terms. Absolutely not. The terms are non-negotiable. He signs, we're done. If he contests, we go to court, and I present all the evidence of his theft and adultery. He won't contest, Jennifer said confidently. Men like him don't want their dirty laundry aired in court. He'll sign. She was right. 3 days later, Jennifer called again. He signed. You're officially free, Clara. The judge just needs to approve the decree, which should take about 30 days. But it's over. I sat on my couch, my new couch, in my newly furnished apartment, and cried. Not because I was sad, because I was relieved. 8 years, gone, erased, like they'd never happened. No, that wasn't quite right. They had happened, and they'd taught me something important. Never again would I let someone make me feel small. Never again would I ignore the red flags. Never again would I value someone else's comfort over my own self-respect. But I still had one more move to make. Because Mark still didn't know about the stones. He still didn't know about the $2.1 million. He thought I was just getting by, maybe with a small inheritance or lucky investment. He had no idea what he'd actually thrown away. And I was going to make sure he found out in the most public, most devastating way possible. Because the revenge wasn't just about me anymore. It was about my mother, who'd protected me even from beyond the grave. It was about my grandmother, who'd survived the Holocaust and sewn her fortune into her wedding dress to keep it safe. It was about every woman who'd been underestimated, undervalued, and dismissed. Mark was about to learn a very expensive lesson, and I was going to enjoy every single second of it. Ivy's birthday was approaching. I knew this because she'd been posting about it on social media for weeks. Countdown posts, hints about what she wanted, pictures of expensive restaurants and jewelry stores with captions like "on birthday goals" and "a girl can dream." Mark was tagged in half of them. Poor, broke Mark, who was now living in Ivy's studio apartment, sleeping on her couch, trying to figure out how to afford even a decent birthday gift. I learned all of this through mutual friends. People who were more than happy to gossip about Mark's spectacular fall from grace, how he'd been demoted at work after the divorce drama became public, how Ivy was getting tired of supporting him, how he looked terrible, stressed, aged 10 years and a month. It should have made me feel guilty. It didn't. What did make me feel something, a dark, satisfying something, was the invitation I received 2 weeks before Ivy's birthday. An invitation to her birthday party. It came through Facebook, one of those mass invites that go out to hundreds of people. Ivy probably didn't even realize I was on the list. Or maybe she did, and she wanted to rub it in my face that she won. That she got Mark, that they were together, that life was grand. The party was being held at Zenith, an upscale rooftop bar downtown. The kind of place that required reservations months in advance and had a strict dress code. I RSVP'd yes immediately. Then I called Dr. Chen. "Clara, how lovely to hear from you. How have you been?" "I've been well, thank you. Dr. Chen, I need a favor." "A big one." "Name it." "I need you to create a certificate of authenticity for the stones I sold. Something official, with the full appraisal, the history, everything. And I need it to look impressive. Museum quality." There was a pause. "May I ask why?" "Because I'm going to a party and I want to bring receipts, literal receipts." She laughed, a warm, knowing sound. "I'll have it ready by tomorrow. Leather portfolio, embossed seal, the works. When you destroy him, do it with style." That's the plan. The next 2 weeks, I prepared. Not just mentally, though there was plenty of that. I prepared my appearance, my story, my evidence. I had Dr. Chen's certificate of authenticity, a beautiful leather-bound document that detailed every aspect of the stones, including the appraisal of $2.1 million, the historical provenance, and photographs of the gems. I had bank statements showing the deposit and my current balance, carefully edited to show only relevant information. Nothing too private, but enough to prove the amount. I had the original note from my mother, now professionally preserved in a clear protective sleeve. I had photographs of the dress, the torn hem, the moment I discovered the stones. I had receipts from Moneyfast pawn shop showing Mark sold the dress for $100 and that I bought it back for $300. I had everything I needed to tell the complete story. And I had the perfect dress for the occasion. This one was champagne-colored, elegant, sophisticated, with a subtle sparkle that caught the light. It cost $3,000. I wore it with the diamond necklace and matching bracelet I'd had made from the stones. The jewelry alone was worth $150,000. A small fraction of what I'd received, but enough to make a statement. The night of Ivy's party, I arrived fashionably late. The rooftop was already crowded with young professionals, all dressed to impress, all drinking expensive cocktails and pretending they belonged in a place like this. I belonged. I could feel it in the way the hostess greeted me, the way people's eyes followed me as I walked through the crowd, the way conversations paused as I passed. I saw Mark before he saw me. He was standing near the bar with a group of guys from his office, nursing what looked like a cheap beer. He couldn't afford the signature cocktails, apparently. His suit was the same borrowed one from the Riverside restaurant. His face looked drawn, tired. Ivy was holding court in the center of the rooftop, surrounded by friends, wearing a dress that was trying too hard to be sexy and failing. She was drunk already. I could tell by the way she was laughing too loudly at things that weren't funny. I got myself a cocktail, a French 75, elegant and expensive, and found a spot near the edge of the rooftop with a good view of the whole party. I waited. It took 15 minutes before someone recognized me. Jessica, a woman who'd been in my graduating class, who'd been friendly enough back then but had drifted into Mark's orbit after we got married. Clara? Oh my God, is that you? Hi, Jessica. How are you? She was staring at me, taking in the dress, the jewelry, the complete transformation. Wow. You look amazing. I heard about the divorce. I'm so sorry. Don't be. Best thing that ever happened to me. Clearly, what have you been up to? Did you get a new job or something? Something like that. I came into some family money, an inheritance. That's wonderful. Good for you. She lowered her voice. Between you and me, Mark's been telling everyone you're broke and bitter, that you're barely scraping by. Is that what he's been saying? Yeah. He said you're working 2 jobs just to afford rent, that you're living in some tiny studio. I smiled. Interesting. And what about him? How's he doing? Jessica glanced over at Mark, who was still at the bar, still nursing the same beer. Not great, honestly. He and Ivy are fighting a lot. She's tired of paying for everything. He got demoted at work. I think she's about to dump him. That's unfortunate. Is it, though? Jessica grinned. He kind of deserves it after what he did to you. Selling your mom's dress. That's low, even for Mark. Yes, I said quietly. It was very low. We talked for a few more minutes before Jessica drifted away. But the seed was planted. I'd been seen. People were noticing me, whispering, wondering. It took another 20 minutes before Mark spotted me. I was standing alone, looking out at the city lights, when I felt his presence behind me. Clara. His voice was rough, uncertain. I turned slowly. Mark. Hello. He looked worse up close. Dark circles, sallow skin, a desperation in his eyes that was almost painful to see. What are you doing here? I was invited. It's a public party, isn't it? You shouldn't have come. Why not? I have as much right to be here as anyone. He looked at my dress, my jewelry, his eyes widening slightly. Where did you get that necklace? I had it made. Do you like it? It's real. Diamonds. About 2 carats total in this piece. How can you afford... He stopped, his jaw clenching. This inheritance everyone's talking about. How much was it? That's none of your business, Mark. It is my business. We were married when you got it. I'm entitled to half. I laughed. Actually laughed in his face. Mark, we're divorced. You have no claim to anything of mine. And besides, the inheritance came before we were married. It was just hidden, waiting for me to find it. His face went pale. What do you mean, hidden? I mean exactly what I said. It was hidden, in something valuable that someone very foolish sold for pocket change. I watched the realization dawn on his face slowly, the confusion giving way to understanding, understanding to horror, horror to devastating comprehension. The dress, he whispered. Something was in the dress. Very good, Mark. Yes, something was in the dress, something my mother told me about, something she begged me to keep safe, something you sold for $100. What was it? Money? Jewelry? Does it matter? Yes, it matters. I sold it. If there was something valuable in it, I have rights. You have no rights. You stole my property and sold it without permission. Then I bought it back with my own money. Whatever I found inside it is mine. Legally, ethically, morally mine. His hands were shaking. How much, Clara? How much was it worth? I took a sip of my cocktail, letting him suffer. The stones were appraised at $2.1 million, give or take. The color drained completely from his face. Million? Did you say million? I did. Diamonds and rubies. My grandmother sewed them into her wedding dress when she fled Poland during World War II. She gave them to my mother, who gave them to me. 3 generations of women keeping them safe. Until you sold the dress for $100 to buy a cheap bracelet for your mistress. Mark actually staggered backward, grabbing the railing for support. $2 million. I threw away $2 million. You did, and I found them, and I sold them. And now I'm a very wealthy woman, Mark. All because you couldn't respect my mother's memory. All because you valued your convenience over my feelings. All because you were too selfish and stupid to understand what you had. You have to share it, he said desperately. We were married. Community property. The dress was given to me a year before we got married. It was my separate property. A lawyer already confirmed it. You get nothing, Mark. Not a penny. Not a stone. Nothing. This isn't fair. Fair. My voice rose slightly, drawing attention from nearby people. You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when you sold my mother's dress without asking? Was it fair when you spent months cheating on me with Ivy? Was it fair when you called me crazy for wanting to keep the one thing I had left of my mother? People were watching now. A small crowd was forming around us. I didn't know, Mark said weakly. How could I have known? You could have asked. You could have respected my wishes. You could have treated me like a human being instead of an obstacle to your happiness. Ivy pushed through the crowd, her face flushed from alcohol and anger. What's going on here? Mark, who is this? You know who I am, Ivy. I'm the wife. Sorry, the ex-wife. She looked me up and down, taking in the expensive dress, the jewelry. Nice costume. Did you rent it for the night? No, I bought it. Along with my new car, my newly furnished apartment, and several other things. I could afford it, you see, because I sold some family heirlooms for a significant sum. Good for you, Ivy said sarcastically. Now leave. This is my party. In a moment, I just wanted to thank Mark first. Thank me? Mark looked confused. Yes, thank you, Mark, for selling my mother's dress. If you hadn't, I never would have taken it to buy back. I never would have torn the hem. I never would have found the fortune hidden inside. You quite literally made me a millionaire. So thank you. The crowd gasped. I heard whispers spreading like wildfire. A $2 million. Holy shit. He sold it for how much? $100. Ivy turned to Mark, her eyes wide. What is she talking about? What fortune? Mark couldn't speak. He just stood there, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. I pulled out my phone and opened the photo album I'd prepared. Here, let me show you. I turned the phone so the crowd could see. Photographs of the stones, glittering and beautiful. The certificate of authenticity from Dr. Chen, the bank statement showing the deposit, the receipt from MoneyFast showing Mark sold the dress for $100. My grandmother fled the Holocaust with these stones sewn into her wedding dress. She gave them to my mother, who gave them to me. They've been in my family for over 80 years. And Mark sold the dress for $100 without asking me, without even looking at it closely, so he could buy a cheap bracelet for his girlfriend. I swiped to another photo. This bracelet, to be exact, the one you're wearing right now, Ivy, cost about $150, I'd estimate, made with fake diamonds and cheap gold plating. He traded $2 million in real gems for that. Ivy looked at her wrist, at the bracelet Mark had given her face cycling through several emotions: shock, disgust, fury. "You said this was expensive," she shouted at Mark. "You said you spent a lot on it." "I did. It was expensive for—" "He spent $100, Ivy. That's what he got for selling my mother's dress. And he gave it all to you. So in a way, you should be thanking him too. He chose you over $2 million. I hope you're worth it." The crowd erupted in laughter and shocked murmurs. People were pulling out their phones, recording, taking pictures. Ivy tore the bracelet off her wrist and threw it at Mark. "You're an idiot. A complete idiot. She was right there. The money was right there in your house and you threw it away." "I didn't know," Mark shouted back. "How was I supposed to know?" "You weren't supposed to know," I said calmly, cutting through their argument. "You were supposed to respect me. You were supposed to trust me when I said the dress was important. You were supposed to be a decent human being. But you couldn't even manage that." I finished my cocktail and set the glass down on a nearby table. "Enjoy the rest of your party, Ivy. Happy birthday. And Mark? Enjoy the rest of your life knowing you had everything you ever wanted and you threw it away for nothing." I turned and walked toward the exit, the crowd parting before me like water. Behind me, I could hear Ivy screaming at Mark, could hear him trying to defend himself, could hear the laughter and gossip spreading through the party like a disease. I didn't look back. The video went viral within hours. I hadn't posted it, I didn't need to. At least a dozen people at that party had recorded the entire confrontation on their phones. By the time I got home that night, it was already spreading across social media platforms like wildfire. Woman reveals ex-husband sold $2 million inheritance for $100. Man sells wife's dress, doesn't know it contains fortune. Karma is real. Cheating husband throws away millions. The comments were savage. Thousands of people weighing in, most of them on my side, some calling Mark every name imaginable. A few blamed me for being cruel and vindictive, but they were drowned out by the overwhelming support. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Friend requests, messages, interview requests from local news stations, even a few entertainment shows wanting to tell my story. I ignored most of them. I didn't need the attention. I'd already gotten what I wanted. But there was one call I did take. From my attorney, Jennifer. "Clara, have you seen the internet today?" Hard to miss it. Good, because Mark's attorney just called me. He wants to renegotiate the divorce settlement. I laughed. Of course he does. What's he claiming now? He's arguing that the stones were found during the marriage, which makes them marital property. He's demanding half. Tell him no. Tell him the stones were my mother's property, given to me before the marriage, and that I have documentation proving it. Tell him if he tries to take me to court, I'll countersue for the theft of my property and the emotional distress he caused, and tell him I have a very good lawyer who would love to tear him apart in front of a judge. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. "You know, I've been practicing law for 20 years. I've never enjoyed a case as much as yours. I'm glad someone's having fun with it." "What are you going to do now? With the money, I mean, have you thought about it?" I'd thought about it every night since selling the stones. I'm going to open a business. Something meaningful. Something my mother would be proud of. What kind of business? An estate preservation service. For people like my mother, like my grandmother, who have valuable items they want to protect and pass down. I'll help them document, preserve, and safeguard their family heirlooms. Make sure no one else loses their inheritance to someone like Mark. That's beautiful, Clara. Really beautiful. It's necessary. How many other women out there have hidden treasures they don't even know about? How many family stories are being lost because items get thrown away or sold? I want to help preserve that. Not just the monetary value, but the history, the meaning. Your mother would be incredibly proud. I hope so. 3 months later, I stood in front of a small storefront in the historic district downtown. The sign above the door read, Heritage and Hope, Estate Preservation Services, in elegant gold lettering. Inside, the space was warm and inviting. Display cases showing examples of preserved documents, jewelry, clothing, photographs. A comfortable consultation area where clients could sit and tell their stories. A workshop in the back where I could clean, repair, and document items. I'd hired 2 employees. A retired museum curator named Margaret, who knew everything about preservation techniques, and a young woman named Sophie, who was brilliant with social media and marketing. We'd been open for 2 weeks and already had a waiting list of clients, people who'd seen my story online and wanted help protecting their own family treasures, people who'd inherited items and didn't know their value, people who just wanted someone to care about their family history as much as they did. I was in the workshop, carefully photographing a client's collection of World War II letters when Sophie knocked on the door. Clara, there's someone here to see you. She says it's important. I don't have any appointments scheduled. I know, but I think you'll want to meet her. I set down my camera and followed Sophie to the front. A woman in her 70s was standing near one of the display cases, studying a photograph I'd included of my grandmother's wedding dress, before Mark sold it, when it was still whole and beautiful. Can I help you? I asked. She turned, and I saw tears in her eyes. My name is Ruth Goldstein. I knew your grandmother. We came to America together, on the same ship from Poland. My breath caught. You knew her? Yes, we were friends before the war, and we stayed friends after. She told me about the stones once, many years ago. She said she'd sewn them into her dress, that they were her insurance policy. I'd always wondered what happened to them. I found them just a few months ago. I know. I saw the video. Everyone saw the video. Ruth smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. Your grandmother was one of the strongest women I ever knew. She survived things that would have broken most people, and she did it all to protect her family, to give them a better future. She gave me that future, I said quietly. Even though she died decades before I was born, she still protected me. Through my mother, through the stones, through the story. That's why I came. I have something similar. Documents from the war, hidden in a trunk in my attic. I don't have children, and I'm not getting any younger. I want to make sure they're preserved properly, that the story isn't lost. When I saw what you were doing, I knew you'd understand. I do understand, and I'd be honored to help you. We talked for over an hour. Ruth told me stories about my grandmother I'd never heard, about her courage, her humor, her determination, about the night they'd fled their village, about the journey to America, about the promise they'd made to each other to never forget where they came from. She would be so proud of you, Ruth said as she was leaving. Not just for finding the stones, but for what you're doing with them, for turning tragedy into purpose. After she left, I stood alone in my shop, looking around at everything I'd built. This wasn't just a business. It was a legacy. A way to honor not just my grandmother and mother, but everyone who'd ever fought to protect their family, their history, their future. Mark tried to sue me. His attorney filed papers claiming half the value of the stones based on some convoluted argument about when they were discovered versus when they were inherited. The case was dismissed within 2 weeks. The judge took one look at the evidence. My mother's note, the date I received the dress, the documentation of Mark's theft, and threw it out. He even ordered Mark to pay my legal fees. I heard through mutual friends that Ivy left him the day after the lawsuit was dismissed. She'd apparently been hanging on, hoping he'd win the case and get some of the money. When that didn't happen, she was done. Mark moved back in with his parents, lost his job. Last I heard, he was working at a car wash and living in their basement. I felt nothing when I heard that. Not satisfaction, not pity, not even curiosity. He was simply irrelevant to my life now. 6 months after opening Heritage and Hope, I received a letter. It was in a cream-colored envelope with elegant handwriting, addressed simply to Clara Morrison, the woman who found her fortune. Inside was a note from Richard Vance, the collector who'd bought my stones. "A dear Clara, I wanted you to know that your grandmother's stones are now part of an exhibit at the National Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C. The exhibit tells the stories of survivors who preserved their dignity and hope through small acts of courage, hiding valuables, protecting family heirlooms, maintaining their humanity in the face of unspeakable horror. Your grandmother's story is featured prominently. Visitors can see photographs of the stones, read her story, and understand the incredible journey those gems made from war-torn Poland to a wedding dress hemmed to your hands. Thousands of people visit this exhibit every year. Your grandmother's courage is inspiring new generations to remember, to honor, and to preserve. I thought you should know that her sacrifice meant something far beyond money. She's teaching people about survival, about family, about the importance of protecting what matters. Thank you for trusting me with this story. With deep respect, Richard Vance." I read the letter 3 times before I let myself cry. Not sad tears, grateful tears, proud tears. My grandmother had saved her family twice. Once by hiding the stones and escaping the Holocaust, and again by ensuring those stones found their way to me, at exactly the moment I needed them most. A year after the confrontation at Ivy's party, I was featured in a magazine article about women entrepreneurs. The reporter asked me if I ever regretted how public I'd made Mark's humiliation. I thought about it carefully before answering. "I don't regret telling the truth," I said finally. Mark made his choices. He stole from me. He lied to me. He disrespected my mother's memory. The consequences of those choices were his to bear, not mine to protect him from. Some people have called you vindictive. Some people would rather I stayed quiet, kept my head down, let him get away with it. But women have been doing that for centuries, protecting men from the consequences of their actions, taking the blame, minimizing our own pain to make them comfortable. I decided I was done with that. What would you say to other women in similar situations? I'd say know your worth. Protect what's important to you. Don't let anyone, not a husband, not a partner, not anyone, tell you that your feelings don't matter, that your memories are worthless, that you're crazy for holding on to something precious. And if someone betrays you, if they throw away something irreplaceable, don't protect them. Let them face what they've done. The article went viral too. I started getting speaking requests, interviews, podcast invitations. People wanted to hear about the dress, the stones, the revenge, but they also wanted to hear about what came after, about healing, about building something new, about turning pain into purpose. I accepted some of the invitations, not all, but some, because I realized my story wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to every woman who'd been underestimated, every daughter who'd lost her mother, every person who'd ever wondered if holding on to the past was worth it. 2 years after finding the stones, I received an unexpected visitor at Heritage and Hope. It was a young woman, maybe 25, with nervous energy and a large bag clutched to her chest. "Are you Clara?" she asked. "I am. How can I help you?" "My name is Rachel. My boyfriend. He threw away a box of my grandmother's things, said they were just junk taking up space. But I think there might be something valuable in there. Not money valuable, just important. And I saw your story, and I thought maybe you could help me figure out if it's worth fighting for." I smiled and gestured to the consultation area. "Tell me about your grandmother." As Rachel talked, as she pulled out the few items she'd managed to save, a tarnished locket, some faded photographs, a handkerchief with embroidered initials, I felt my mother's presence. My grandmother's presence. All the women who'd come before, who'd fought to protect their families, their memories, their dignity. "These are absolutely worth fighting for," I told Rachel. "And if your boyfriend can't understand that, then he's not worth keeping either." She laughed, relieved. "That's what my friends said. But it's scary, starting over. I know, but I promise you, it's worth it. You deserve someone who respects what matters to you. And if you don't have that person yet, then you deserve the space to find them, or to find yourself. Is that what happened to you? You found yourself. I thought about the woman I'd been 2 years ago. Scared, small, apologizing for taking up space. And the woman I was now, confident, successful, helping others protect what mattered to them. Yes, I said. I found myself. And it turned out I was worth a lot more than I thought. It's a Sunday afternoon, and I'm closing up Heritage and Hope for the day. The autumn sun is setting, casting golden light through the front windows and making the preserved jewelry in the display cases sparkle. My phone buzzes. A text from Sophie. Check Instagram. You're trending again. I open the app and see that someone has made a TikTok about my story, set to some emotional music, with text overlay telling the saga of the dress, the stones, the revenge. It has 3 million views. The comments are thousands deep. This is the greatest revenge story I've ever heard. Her grandmother literally reached from beyond the grave to save her. That's generational blessing. Mark is somewhere crying. She didn't just win. She ascended. I smile, screenshot it, and send it to Jennifer with the message. We really did something, didn't we? She responds immediately. You did something. I just helped with the paperwork. You're the one who had the courage. I lock up the shop and walk to my car, not the pearl white SUV anymore, but a more practical sedan. I sold the SUV after a year. It had made its point. Now I drive something comfortable, sensible, mine. As I drive home, to my beautiful apartment overlooking the river, the apartment I chose, the apartment that has no bad memories, I think about Mark. I wonder if he thinks about me. If he lies awake at night calculating what he lost. If he tells the story at bars, trying to get sympathy, only to have people tell him he deserved it. I hope he does think about it. Not because I'm cruel, but because some lessons cost $2 million to learn. I think about my mother, about her final gift to me. She didn't just give me stones. She gave me freedom. She gave me proof that I came from strong women. She gave me permission to choose myself. I think about my grandmother, fleeing Poland with nothing but the clothes on her back and stones sewn into her hem. She couldn't have imagined that 80 years later, those stones would save her granddaughter from a different kind of prison. But maybe she did imagine it. Maybe that was always the point. Not the money itself, but the message. You come from survivors. You come from women who know how to protect themselves. You are stronger than you think. When I get home, I pour myself a glass of wine. Good wine, not the cheap stuff. And I stand on my balcony watching the city lights come on one by one. My phone buzzes again. Another message, this one from an unknown number. Clara, it's Mark. Please, I just want to talk. I've changed. I understand what I did wrong. Can we meet? Can I apologize properly? I read it twice. Then I delete it, block the number. I don't need his apology. I don't need his understanding. I don't need anything from him at all. I'm free. And somewhere, I know my mother is smiling. My grandmother is smiling. All the women who came before me, who fought and struggled and survived so that I could stand here, in my own home, living my own life, owing nothing to anyone. I raise my glass to the city, to the past, to the future. He sold my late mom's dress to buy a ring for his mistress, I whispered to the night air. Then I found the hem. And I found my worth. And I found my freedom. And that, more than any amount of money, more than any revenge, is the real fortune my mother left me. If this story moved you, if it inspired you, or if you just loved watching karma work its magic, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. We bring you the most incredible true stories of revenge, justice, and triumph. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss another story like Clara's. Because sometimes, the best revenge is living well and showing everyone exactly what they threw away.